check it out, friends. I'm going to get you to listen to this interview with Lou Elizondo, and he's just going to reveal something about some UFOs. The US government are paying disability pensions right now because people have gotten too close to them. It's actually true. Let's go.
Table, because we simply don't know.
We also don't know what their intentions are and why they might be here.
That's right.
Why they might be visiting here.
That's right.
Do you have any theories as to what their intentions might be?
Brother, there's a whole range of theories. I mean, it could be simply as like when we're on the African Serengeti and we see the wildebeest and we're in a helicopter and, not to make fun of it, but you sit there and say, oh, that one, we dart it, boom. What do? We land the helicopter, we come out, we draw blood, we do tests. We want to see its diet and its migratory patterns, its health. And then what happens? The wildebeest wakes up, kind of groggy, disoriented, stumbles over to the watering hole and he's like, hey, Bill, you're not going to believe this, man. This thing came out of the sky. All some weird stuff happened. I was being touched. I woke up and now my butt hurts, right? It could be.
So you got to remember, when somebody who works for the government is talking like that, it's happened quite a lot. He's like, oh yeah, we really are just being like examined by Mr. or Mrs. Alien. Hopefully not Vitalik. Yeah. So they're coming out, checking us out. It's like when we go out to the wild and we basically grab any of these animals. Let's continue.
Government.
Mm-hmm. In writing, because they had a UAP encounter. They were involved in a UAP encounter.
And what does that mean, UAP encounter, in that definition?
Well, so let's look at it this way. Here's a better one. You go to the airport, right? And I'm going to hop on a 737 and go fly to Fort Lauderdale. There's no real threat there. I'm getting on a plane. It's safe. Sit on the seat, have a cocktail, watch a movie, read a magazine. Now, if I were to walk out onto the tarmac, onto the runway of where that same airplane is, and that airplane decides to spool up its jet engine, chances are I'm going to be injured. I'm going to get burned. I'm going to lose my hearing and possibly a lot worse, right? There are individuals, U.S. government servicemen and women, and there's also intelligence officials who have been injured by getting too close to a UAP, whether incidentally or it was deliberate or not. The question is, was that injury sustained because it was deliberate, or was that injury sustained because it was just a matter of being too close to the technology? For example, let's say putting your head near a microwave oven when it's on. It's probably not very good for you, right?
And have those people spoken out?
Absolutely.
What's like a good example?
There's an individual right now named John Burroughs who had his medical files classified, and the U.S. government, thankfully, because of late Senator John McCain from Arizona, forced the Air Force to release his files. And as a result, he was able to get full medical disability because of an incident that involved him and another individual in the UK, known as Rendlesham Forest Incident or Bentwaters Incident, where there was a joint US and UK base, and there was a UFO incident where this thing had landed in the forest. And they went out to go see this thing, and they were injured.
And they were in the military at the time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Air Force Special Police or police officers.
They were injured.
They were injured, and that's not all. There's a lot of people that have been injured right now that are under medical care by government doctors. That is a fact.
When they give their account of what happened.
So, friends, this Rendlesham forest, there are a few off here, okay? So there are these out. This is exactly what it looked like. And they actually came out and they checked out these UFOs. They actually went and they measured, I think, the grass. There was like high active radiation and stuff. It's interesting. There was another one, this is Rendlesham. There was another one out here. There was a gentleman who was in, I think it was in the Navy. It was one of the famous cases. This is the guy, he got really close and he could see this weird writing. No, weird. It looks like these morphed ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. That's what it looked like, right? So it's that. Why this is important, of course, friends. Lou Elizondo is coming from the government. I guess these stories, they're pretty much real. So he's read the reports and the files, and even through this interview, I'll show you a bit more. He can't speak about a lot of things, so that's why a lot of people believe, hey man, it's like a controlled disclosure. Because what the government, obviously, friends, what the deep state, it's clear what they're trying to do. Actually, Lou Elizondo in a previous clip, he actually admits this. They want to figure out with us plebes, they want to figure out what we demand. They want to know what type of disclosure do we want. Are people okay with the government just saying aliens are real, get back with your lives? Do they want that? Or do they want more pictures? Do they want to see alien dead bodies? And here's the thing, you're like, show the dead bodies, show the dead bodies. No. The government, of course, friends, they're hiding a lot of evil crimes against humanity. So they are just trying to find the exact minimum requirement to get everybody to shush and get on with their lives. So, it makes you question a lot of these things, because if they weren't hiding any of these disastrous crimes, they could just start opening the books, but then they kind of like they're going to open the books to their adversaries, Russia, China, and let everybody know, hey, yeah, you can warp space-time. There's actually a part here, friends, where they showed this, right, the burn damage. You see this experience of time dilation. So this is not, how do you know this, by the way? This is crazy. This is very, 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 very common, actually. There was a guy, I think it was in the UK, friends, Ireland. So shout out to Carl. I just sent him a message requiring this, friend, going through this. So there was a guy in Ireland, and he's walking through like this field of grass. He's walking home from work, and he saw literally a UFO alien dude, and it was just skipping. It was like walking, like it was zipping, and it walked to a ship and just disappeared. Now, when he got home, he checked the time, and he was shocked because normally it takes him like 10 minutes to walk through this field of grass. So he's just walking from like just imagine like hills, and he's just walking through the hills, just grass all over everywhere. When he got home, he checked the time. He's like, wait a minute, it's 5:30. I'm meant to be home like 4 o'clock. So basically he lost like an hour and a half. And it was exactly like this. So obviously what happened was he got a bit too close to their bubble, and he was just walking, and then and the alien was skipping. So it looked like the alien was skipping. It's just that they were able to pause time. They're like, hey, the humans are coming, and doing that. It's actually fascinating. And I can't remember where exactly I got all the info before, but they look like just something almost like that. Now, this is a physical, you can see physical stuff there, but this type of stuff is happening. Actually really cool. Now we're going to continue. He's going to speak about the national security issue and the nuclear weapons.
Technology facilities.
Yes. That is why this is a national security issue, because they seem to be able to disable our nuclear capabilities. Now people say, oh, well, that's like, taking matches out of a kid's hands, and it's, well, maybe, but in Russia, there's information to suggest they actually turned them on. So, we have to be really careful with that. And our nuclear triad capability is really the crown jewels of the U.S.
I just want to pause on that. So in Russia, I think they turn them on and turn them off. But it's kind of funny, right? When you're like a military guy, you're like, oh, threat. It's just, when you want all the power in the world, it's interesting to have that perspective.
U.S. government. And so if a country or an adversary has the ability to interfere with a nuclear response, that's significant.
There's evidence to suggest that they turned on the nuclear facilities in Russia.
Yes.
What is that evidence?
Well,
when was that?
There's evidence that there's actually a KGB report that suggested that the one of their places was actually turned on. In fact, there's a lot. Let me be careful what I say here. So after the Berlin Wall fell, there was this brief honeymoon period between the Soviet Union and the U.S. where ex-KGB officers were sharing information with us and our government. I think that's about all I could probably say about that. But there was some very interesting information that we were able to see.
So, friends, I got to tell you, stop you right there. Everything he just said has been covered by George Knapp. Okay, George Knapp. It's amazing what he's able to do. George Knapp, I don't know if this is the exact clip. I'm just winging it here. He saw the classified UFO documents. So after, I think, the breaking of the wall, there was this period of like super relaxed peace, and he was able to go there and eventually get to the Russia government's, the UFO dudes who were, and they had all these operations where they were basically asking everyone in the Russian army to write down about every single UFO sighting, and they went to like, one central place, and George Knapp was able to go talk to the guy. I forgot what his name was, like Strokalov or something. I forgot what his name. And he shared a lot. And he said that, he said it was so funny. He goes, we've got spy cameras of like your spy cameras watching them. He's talking about. So he's like, oh, your US government's been watching them the whole time. And we know that you guys know it exists. We've all like pretended not to say anything. Let's watch this out because it's actually awesome.
Doesn't ring a bell. We have one more beer. He goes, you know, now that you mention it, there's a friend of mine at KGB who said he had worked on a report about UFOs and some documents. I could ask him about it. I said, you think there's anybody else who might know in the Ministry of Defense? Well, I know all those guys. I could find out. So he said, yeah, I'll do it.
Behind the scenes, George planned a high-stakes trip in 1993 with Russia in turmoil and sources ready to talk.
We're there 10 days. We were pulled over by cops 7 times. There were people stationed outside of our rooms at the hotel. I would put little traps to see if they went through my stuff, which they did every single day. We met with this guy, Boris Sokolov, who had been the head of what was then the largest UFO investigation conducted by a government in the history of the world. There was a period of 78 to 88 where the Russians had these dramatic UFO incidents, and they decided to create a program to get to the bottom of it. And man, well, that was really something. I won't explain exactly how I got access to the files, but I did. Thousands of pages from the Russian Ministry of Defense. Many of those pages were classified at the time. So then we had the problem of how to get it out.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
It was pretty tricky.
What did you do?
Well, these documents, in those days at least, the Russian Ministry of Defense would stamp classification on the top page of the document, and the rest of them weren't marked at all. It was clear they're military documents, but without that classification, it's a lot less onerous and dangerous. I just removed the top pages of all those documents, and I threw the rest of it in my suitcase with some caviar, by the way, which they told us we were not allowed to take out caviar. So I threw some caviar in there as a diversion. And it worked because they opened it up. They're looking, hey, caviar not allowed. Close the suitcase back up. And then the other pages, I carried through security. I carried on my person. If they'd caught me, I'd still be there in a gulag somewhere, but they didn't. And the goal was maybe we'll find out more from the Russians about what our government knows about UFOs than we'll ever learn from our government itself, which is true. We did.
Thank you for watching.
That's actually awesome. Putting his life on the line. George Knapp, friends. He was the reporter who introduced Bob Lazar to the world. He was the first guy to do it, and Bob Lazar, he had a fake name, Dennis, at the start, and then he went public. Yeah, it's high classified stuff. Let's just quickly check out back to Elizondo.
Think about this really interesting incident called the Colares incident.
Colares in Brazil.
I can't pronounce that. So
you did good. Colares.
Colares, which was in 1977 to 1978. And it sounded like a UAP incident that was witnessed by hundreds, thousands of people.
It was investigated officially by the Brazilian military under the command and control of a 4-star general named General Uchoa. And he has explained before he passed away that even his own military personnel had been attacked by UAP.
And what did they see? What did they document see?
Oh my goodness, a whole litany of things. A lot of the locals recall being terrified by these things being pursued by them, almost being like a laser blast, if you can imagine that, or directed energy type injury. Very provocative. Some of the military personnel were injured as well. A lot of medical doctors came in afterwards to look at the locals and the military personnel, validating the presumption that there was some sort of directed energy type damage, tissue damage to some of these people. And of course, then the fear kind of escalated into some of the other, local lore of some other things. But it was very well established by the Brazilian military, who also witnessed these encounters. So it's not like just some people in a remote village. These were Brazilian military officers who also vouched for it. And I've spoken to dozens and dozens of military officers all throughout Latin America and in Chile and Peru and Uruguay. And, they all reporting, in some cases, some very, very similar encounters, not necessarily with Colares, but instant amongst themselves. People who don't even know each other, separated by different countries, are telling me their same encounter and the same morphology of craft, and how they would, in some cases, even try to engage in a dogfight and use cannons, conventional guns, to no avail, of course. And there's reports of that in Tehran incident, I believe it was 1978, the Tehran incident with an F-14 Tomcat, where the pilot, his aircraft was disabled every time he tried to engage a target. And then, I superimpose that with Here in Huntsville, Alabama, we had some helicopters that we were testing, and something like 8 out of the 8 test pilots all reported UAP coming around their helicopters while they were testing them. And one even reported that he believed his helicopter was disabled, and he went into an emergency situation. I think it was an emergency auto rotation situation. And as soon as the UAP left, he was able to regain control of his helicopter.
Should we be...
So you remember in that mention, he talks about Tehran in Iran. That pilot, he's actually pretty famous. I think he's still alive. I remember seeing he talked about it. It was actually spooky. He goes, I think he aimed the weapon on it, and the button wouldn't work. It's cool. It's cool. I mean, like, you're high tech, right? So a lot of these sites do happen. It's always with the army, friends. It's kind of funny. Just imagine, by the way, you're getting blasted by UFO lasers. How the hell do you tell the world? I hope that doesn't happen to any of us, man. They're gonna be like, okay, now you've lost the plot. Come right here into the mental asylum, please. Man, that's crazy. Don't believe these governments, by the way, as well, in terms of like, why is the military getting shot? I don't see them shooting down like random towers, civilians or anything. Maybe the military, but they're not. I don't think they're saying all the truth. You know, we found out from Russia, I think it was George Knapp. He ended up finding out from one of those, one of the leakers back then, the UFOs, they've actually killed the pilot. And they go, oh, UFOs are bad. Yeah, but what happened? The commander ordered the Russian pilots go and shoot him down. Retard. So, yeah, I think it was like, I forgot the number, like it was like 4 or 5 jets went, and they all shot all the missiles, and the thing was just zipping around, okay? And then one of them flew close and tried to shoot again, and they shot back. And I think the air pilot, the Russian pilot, he died. So then Russia went like, okay, don't do it anymore. So that's the type of stuff that, but look where you hear it from, okay? But the government, what are they going to say? Oh, well, could be a threat, It's kind of disgusting, by the way. Like, they look for every single angle to paint Mr. Aliens as bad. Or like, oh, could be a threat. And then like, okay, it's the agenda to control us every single time. I wonder how it's going to play out. Is it a fake alien invasion? There's a lot of these, you watch the Y-Files, man. There's a lot of these Breakaway Civilization stuff, which like, when I heard it, I was like, there's no way that's even remotely possible. I've got to do more research into that. Breakaway Civilization things. If we have the tech to do things, what does even Breakaway Civilization mean? Where do they go live? Some people say on the ground, other planets, other dimensions. I mean, like, a lot of these things just blow your mind, but we do share life with other beings, friends. Humans aren't even the heaviest mass of life on Earth. We discovered fungi 120 years ago. It's actually true. You add up all the humans, we are not the dominant life on Earth. So we thought the whole time it was humans. It's actually the mushrooms. Yep. And they're all connected all around the world. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And they live within, we have like fungi everywhere. So these types of realizations that we aren't alone, I think they're going to keep moving forward, and we're just going to learn more. But yeah, it's always interesting, right, to hear these guys talk, isn't it, about UFOs, how the government perceives these. But there's some sort of hidden agenda coming down the line. Let me know what you think. Catch you in the next one.